CNN thought that this was going to be one of those interviews, the safe ones, the controlled ones, the kind where the questions sound tough but never go anywhere. Ilhan Omar walked on to CNN expecting sympathy, cover, and a clean narrative. A story about her son, ICE, and alleged racial profiling that was supposed to land exactly the way it always does. But something went wrong. Because once the words were out there, once the claim was made, it didn't stay inside the studio. Within hours, Immigration and Customs Enforcement dropped a statement that detonated the entire narrative. Absolutely zero record. No stop, no report, no documentation, nothing. This is when CNN went quiet. This is when the story flipped. That is when one interview turned into 3 political disasters at the same time. Because when Ilhan Omar's claim was collapsing in real time, the Department of Justice environment under Donald J. Trump wasn't playing around. And neither were Senate Republicans already dragging Fani Willis into hearings over her own unraveling case. That's right, guys. This wasn't just a bad interview. This was a moment where the media protection failed, records mattered, and accountability just came roaring back. And so once I said zero record, there was no putting this genie back in the bottle. By the way, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for dropping a like for the video. This interview didn't happen by accident. CNN was the venue because CNN has always been basically treated as friendly territory. The framing is familiar, emotional setup, sympathetic language, and an assumption that the guest's narrative will be treated as truth unless proven otherwise. Now, for years, that formula worked. Ilhan Omar walked into these interviews expecting alignment, ideological, cultural, and political. The audience, the host, the tone, all of it was supposed to reinforce her position. Now, this wasn't about fact-finding. It was about validation. It was about reinforcing the idea that enforcement equals oppression. And that personal testimony, this is enough to settle the matter. And that's why this mattered politically. And it mattered at a moment when immigration enforcement is no longer abstract, when actions are being logged, audited, and scrutinized. You see, Omar needed CNN to freeze the narrative before it reached the record keepers. But CNN doesn't control ICE records, and CNN doesn't control what happens after the camera shut off. This is where the plan unraveled. Now, here's the claim. Clean, direct, no embellishments. Omar stated that her son, a United States citizen, was pulled over by ICE agents after a routine stop. She framed the encounter as racial profiling, saying that he was questioned about his citizenship and only released after producing documentation. The implication was unmistakable. Federal agents targeting citizens based on how they look. She didn't hedge. She didn't say allegedly. She presented it as fact. The timing mattered, the setting mattered, and the framing mattered most of all, because once you accuse a federal agency of unlawful enforcement, you're no longer telling a story, you're making a charge. And charges don't live on cable news forever, they live in records. That's the mistake, because once the claim left CNN, it entered a system that doesn't respond to emotion. It responds to logs, reports, and documentation. That is when everything started to collapse. And this is where the interview subtly kind of changes direction, not dramatically, not confrontationally, but enough to matter. So check this out. So the host presses a little bit harder, clarifying questions appear, details are requested, and suddenly Omar's answers begin to drift instead of land. And you can hear it in the pacing. You can see it in the language. So instead of specifics, she moves toward generalities. Instead of concrete confirmation, she pivots to broader claims about ICE behavior and undocumented interactions. The story stops tightening and it starts floating. That's the danger, because floating narratives don't survive contact with records. This is the point where CNN loses control of the moment, not because the host intended to expose anything, but because once a claim is challenged, even slightly, it creates a vacuum. And that vacuum demands verification. Now, CNN, they can frame, CNN can contextualize, but CNN can't certify facts. And once that interview ended, the question wasn't what Omar felt happened, it was whether what she said could be confirmed. That's when the media bubble popped and the story escaped into federal territory where cable narratives don't apply. That, my friends, is when ICE entered the picture. Now, this moment actually connects to something that a lot of people don't realize until it's too late. You see, most retirees just assume that their Medicare coverage stays the same year after year. It doesn't. Not because they did anything wrong, but because benefits quietly shift behind the scenes. Networks change, specialists disappear, costs creep up without warning. And one of our viewers told me, I didn't know how bad it got until Chapter showed me. That's the difference, guys. Chapter tracks those hidden Medicare changes before they hurt you, so that your coverage doesn't quietly erode while you're assuming everything's fine. And here's the best part. It doesn't even cost you anything to have them take a look. That's right, guys. It is a totally 100% free service to you. Now, most people, they're dialing the phone number right down there below, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting the link that I left for you down below. Just click the link. Tell my friends over at Chapter that Ron says hello. Because just like with politics, the worst surprises are the ones you never saw coming. And so when Immigration and Customs Enforcement responds publicly, it's not casual. Agencies like ICE don't freelance statements. They verify first, especially under Donald J. Trump, where documentation and enforcement are no longer optional. That statement was blunt, not vague, not defensive, absolutely zero record. No stop logged, no officer report, no incident entry, no encounter. That phrase matters because ICE doesn't operate informally. Every stop, every interaction, every field contact creates a paper trail. Agents are required to document activity precisely because those records are subject to oversight, audits, and legal review. So when ICE says zero record, they're not disputing interpretation. They're disputing the existence. Now, this is catastrophic for the original claim from Ilhan Omar, because now the story isn't about profiling. It's about whether the event even happened at all. Is she trustworthy? Is this lady a liar? And once that door opens, the narrative doesn't just weaken, it completely collapses. This is where defenders try to downplay the damage. Now, they'll say maybe paperwork was delayed, maybe it was a different agency, maybe it was informal. That argument doesn't survive 5 minutes of reality. Think about it. ICE doesn't conduct undocumented stops, period. Every field interaction triggers a chain. Time, location, agent ID, reason for contact. This is not bureaucracy. This is liability protection. It exists so that agents don't get accused of exactly what Ilhan Omar accused them of. A stop with no record isn't a clerical issue. It means there's no agent, there's no vehicle, there's no report, no supervisory review, which leaves only two possibilities. Either the stop never happened or the accusation is against an agency that wasn't there. This is why zero record is devastating. It removes ambiguity. It doesn't argue motive, it challenges existence. And once existence is in doubt, the story flips. The burden doesn't sit with ICE anymore, it shifts back to the accuser. Now at that point, the emotion doesn't matter, intent doesn't matter. What matters is proof. And there wasn't any. Now watch what happens next, not on air, but in silence. No follow-up segment defending the claim, no extended panel discussion pushing back on ICE. There's no investigative special demanding answers like Barbara Walters or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, just distance. That's how you know a narrative is no longer safe. When a network quietly disengages, it's not neutrality, it's recognition. CNN knows the risk of attaching itself to a claim that federal records directly contradict, so instead of escalation, you get avoidance. Instead of outrage, you get pivoting to other stories. The interview exists, but the defense doesn't. And that silence sends a signal louder than any monologue. I mean, this story won't hold up. Because once any agency like ICE puts its name on denial, media outlets understand the exposure. They know what subpoenas look like, they know what oversight committees do, and they know when it's time to step back and let the claim fall on its own weight. Now, here's where the miscalculation really shows. So the claim was supposed to generate sympathy, headlines about profiling, outrage at enforcement, pressure on ICE, but instead it did the complete opposite. The moment the zero record statement landed, skepticism replaced sympathy almost instantly. Critics didn't have to speculate. They didn't have to infer. They just pointed to the absence of proof. And once that happened, the questions multiplied real fast. So why wasn't there a photo? Why wasn't there a video? Why no officer's name or badge number, no timestamp? This energized people who already distrusted media narratives, but it also pulled in casual viewers who simply expect receipts when accusations are made. The story didn't just stall, it completely reversed direction. And so instead of ICE being on defense, Omar was. Instead of enforcement being questioned, credibility was. And once credibility becomes the story, there's no way to rewind it. That's the backfire effect. The harder you lean into the claim, the more scrutiny it invites, and the less control you have over where it goes after that. Now, timing matters, and under Donald J. Trump, timing is unforgiving. This isn't an environment where agencies hedge. This is an enforcement-first DOJ culture. Documentation, chain of custody, and audit trails, they matter again. Federal agencies, they know that their statements will be tested, reviewed, and defended line by line. This is why ICE didn't soften the response. They didn't say, we're looking at it. They said absolutely zero record. That is a statement that you only make when you're confident that your files will stand up to scrutiny. Now, in this climate, Public accusations aren't just political messaging. They're potential liabilities. Claims collide with records. Narratives collide with logs. And once that happens, the system doesn't care who you are or where you said it. CNN, they can host the interview, sure. But DOJ reality decides the aftermath. And that reality is what Omar ran straight into. So this is where the story widens, and it widens fast. Because at the same time Omar's claim is falling apart under documentation, Fani Willis is facing her own credibility test. Not on cable news, but in front of lawmakers. Different issues, same problem, big claims meeting hard scrutiny. So Fani Willis had insisted that her prosecution choices were clean. They were procedural and insulated from personal conflicts. Drop a yes or no if you believe Fani Willis on that. Then came the questions, the billing, the relationship with Nathan Wade, the admissions about oversight that never happened. And then suddenly, what sounded airtight in press conferences didn't hold up under formal examination. That's the parallel. In both cases, authority was assumed, not demonstrated. Media platforms can amplify certainty, but they can't replace verification. Once testimony begins, once records are demanded, tone stops mattering. This isn't about personalities, it's about process. And when process enters the room, narratives don't get special treatment, they get tested. This is what both situations revealed, and why they collided into the same political moment. There is a shift happening, and you can feel it. For years, political narratives lived comfortably on television, framed, contextualized, and protected by friendly platforms. But that era is fading. What replaces it is less forgiving statements to agencies, sworn testimony, oversight hearings, and paper trails. That's the through line here. Omar's claim didn't end on CNN. It ended when ICE spoke. Willis's case didn't survive commentary. It collapsed under questioning. Different lanes, same direction. This is what accountability looks like when institutions start asserting themselves again. Cable news can host stories. They can't validate them. Senate committees don't ask how a claim felt. They ask how it was supported. And once that shift happens, there's no reset button. The rules change, the audience changes, and the consequences follow. The system doesn't care where a story started, it cares where it ends. And so once credibility cracks, consequences don't stay contained, they spread. The collapse of Omar's claim didn't just invite fact-checking, it unleashed a political aftershock that no one on her side could control. Petitions resurfaced, calls for investigations escalated, rhetoric intensified, and while not all of it was measured or even productive, it was fairly predictable. Because when a high-profile accusation fails publicly, it doesn't cool tensions, it inflames them. Voters who already felt ignored by media narratives saw confirmation of their suspicions. Others, less ideological, they saw something simpler, a serious claim made without proof. Now that alone right there, this is enough to harden opinions. And once public trust erodes, people fill the vacuum with their own conclusions. This isn't about endorsing the backlash. This is about acknowledging reality. Political misfires don't disappear, they mutate. And when leaders lose narrative control, the reaction belongs to the crowd, not the campaign. Well, that's the aftershock, and it doesn't ask for permission. So step back and let's just look at the full picture here. One interview, one unverified claim, and 3 simultaneous collapses. Ilhan Omar lost narrative control the moment that ICE spoke. CNN lost its ability to shield once records entered the conversation, and Fani Willis became part of a larger pattern: confidence on camera, vulnerability under scrutiny. This wasn't coordinated. It didn't need to be. It happened because the rules changed. Stories don't end where they're told anymore. They end where they're tested. And in this environment, enforcement first, record-driven, and unforgiving, emotion is no substitute for proof. So this is the shift that viewers are reacting to. Not politics, not ideology, accountability. So once ICE said absolutely zero record, the story was over. It was done, even if the noise wasn't. And once that line was crossed, there was no walking it back. No my bad at that point. One interview, 3 disasters, and zero control over the outcome. That's the lesson. See you next time.